Okay, good morning. Saturday morning edition of Getting Busy with Byzantines. I don't know how the heck we ended up with the fan not being on. Fix that in a moment. Okay, recap. Where did we leave off yesterday? Oh, we got the fourth spearman complete. One, two, three, and here's the fourth one. Yeah, so we're going to go do another guy. Same pose as this last one. I do that on purpose so that I make a conscious effort of making sure they don't look the same. Varied enough. No mold growth overnight. That's good. All right. I feel like this guy should be maybe like a light green or something. Let's take a look at this. That's the one I'm thinking of. Pastel green. That'll work. Nordic Maelstrom. First one, Johnny on the spot. Good morning, or in your case, probably your continued evening. Hopefully you're feeling okay. No alarm clock duties for you today. You can take the morning off. Rumor has it I should have a fair amount of hobby time today. Rumor has it. There, I'm covered. I'm covered in case the plans change. Let's go over here. Let's go over to this land. Ooh, I like that color. Well, I don't want to paint my house in it, although it does remind me of maybe a color that was in my childhood home at one point. Kicking it like it's the early 70s. Hey, I was just a kid crapping in a diaper. I didn't pick the colors. I'm actually going to do something I don't know that I've done very often, and that's I'm going to go ahead and soak up these drippings, wipe this thing down, and then put more down because it looks like there's some lint in there or something like that. I don't want it to mix with the paint and be, and create more trouble for me. Then I gotta pick that stuff out. So I think we're not quite halfway done with this stuff. We will be buying more of this overpriced whatever the hell this stuff is. Doesn't say what the ingredients are, so you can't replicate it. It has shown its value as far as I'm concerned. The thing that I bought by accident. Feeling pretty okay tonight. You're doing this morning. Watch 2 good World War II movies you may like. All right, I'm ready. Operation Mince Meat and The Imitation Game. Both are about the espionage behind the invasion of Sicily and the breaking of Enigma. All right, let's write those things down. You have a track record now. I took one of your recommendations and I liked it, so it can only get worse. Operation Mince Meat. One of the most misnamed things ever. Mince meat. It's not meat. It's plenty of mince, though. I hate that stuff. It's like too much allspice. The Imitation Game. Okay. Either one of those two on Amazon or something? Well, I can check them out. I can check them out. Yeah, I really like that. The one you recommended, the one in Holland, because there was a little bit of everything. There was some action, there was the Holocaust type stuff, and then there was the trying to escape thing. So you had a lot of different angles. I guess you had three angles. I like that. That worked well. It was a little confusing who the German guy was, the soldier, because a lot of the guys just kind of looked the same. But that happens in a lot of war movies. They start telling you, you start showing one guy, and then they go to somebody else. You're like, is that the same guy I just saw, or is it? So if they have similar faces, and of course they're wearing helmets, so you can't tell them apart from each other that well. Both are on Netflix. Okay, cool. We will check them out. I trying to work my way through Vikings, and just having a really slow time of it. Of course, I'm only watching it when I'm warming up on the treadmill at the gym, so I'm only watching it, I don't know, 10 minutes or something like that every time. But I guess I'll eventually get through it. I think I started episode 5. I've seen a full 3 seasons for sure of it, but I'm surprised how much I've forgotten about it. The plot line and stuff, so. Alright, I think this is probably a good starting point for this. As I've gotten older, I tend to forget plot lines of things a lot. Well, I think you just watch other things and then you just get distracted. Like, Mitch was asking me if I'd ever seen a movie, and I had. And it was called Europa Europa. I did. It was back when I had Netflix and used to send them in a CD case. You send them in the mail. I don't know if they still even do that. I haven't done that in, I don't know, 10 years probably. So, probably longer than that actually. And I just don't remember anything about it other than I didn't hate it. You always remember movies that you hate and movies that are awesome. So it's somewhere in the middle somewhere. I did get around to seeing that movie that always was not really recommended, but always came up in. Shit, I could do a whole show just on World War II movies, but that was always recommended to me as the most horrible World War II movie. I mean, horrible, like, the most shocking World War II movie. And it would come up on my feeds, like, and it was called. It was called. Yeah. Well, it's still. It was a while ago when it was made. Called. Come here and see, or come here, come see, or something like that. Come and see, I think is what it's called. And I don't know that I found it that shocking, but maybe at the time when it was made in 1985, your psyche changes of things when you see them, depending on when you see them. There's two movies that I can think of. Actually, there's 3 movies. There may even be more, but and I'm not a huge movie watcher, but there's 3 movies that I saw as a kid. We're going to say under 18. No, we're not going to say under 18 because one of them I wasn't under 18 when I saw it. Under 20 when I saw that were really kind of had a profound effect. They were shocking. They were shock value movies. And I bet if I saw them now, they wouldn't have that same effect. But just because I saw them early on. And you have to remember, I don't go out of my way to find shocking content. It kind of has to find me. You watch Vikings Valhalla, but will not be watching any further seasons if they make it. I should watch Vikings again. Yeah, I heard good things about Viking Valhalla from somebody who has no track record of being trusted. And then I read about some of the stuff that's somebody reviewed on Viking Valhalla, and I'm like, I'm out. I'm never going to. I'm not watching that woke stuff. And that's the problem that I have with it. I have no problem with having stuff that's more culturally diverse. I absolutely have no problem with it. I have a problem with changing things just for the sake of making people happy that will never be happy with no matter what you do. So, and that seems like that's what the issue is with Viking Valhalla. I'm not going to watch that. With the terror over, give the trench a view. Okay, we got another one on there. Come and see. It's a Russian movie from 1985, and the trench. And basically, what it takes, I saw it. I don't know, less than a year ago, and the details of it are fuzzy, most of it. But the main character is we'll say a 15-year-old boy. He's about 14 to 16, somewhere in there. He's too young to be drafted. But he's a Russian villager in Belarus, Ukraine, one of those two places. During the time of the Germans occupied it, so 41 through 44, something like that. And he's kind of minding his own business, and the partisans come in to recruit him. And he runs away from the partisans, and ends up. The partisans basically end up doing stuff, and the Germans do reprisals, and it's the reprisals that are really supposedly the shock value. But there's stuff in it. There's like drug scene, not drug scenes, but there's stuff that's very it's very trippy. Scenes in between stuff that is just seems really weird. I can't think of the word right now, but very trippy like. But I don't know. It was just there's some things in movies that don't really work well for me, and one of them happens in a few Japanese movies I've seen, like samurai movies I've seen. And it happens in this Come and See. And what it is when you have a serious subject matter or serious characters that all of a sudden start acting almost jester-like, way over the top type thing. And that happens in a couple of the samurai movies that I've seen where the character is really serious and then all of a sudden he's like a court jester. He does things that are really out of character. The same thing happens in Come and See. They have there's one scene in it where, in the reprisals, they send an Einsatzgruppen into the village, and I don't have a problem with the fact that they were shown as delighting in the atrocities they were committing, but it was way over the top. It was like they were on drugs and shit. Like they almost got left off the freaking truck, and they were chasing after the truck after they were done torching the village. It just, you got to see it to see what I'm talking about. It just seems really out of character, and I think a poor choice. I'm not saying that things didn't happen exactly like that, but it's a little too far-fetched. You start questioning things, especially when Hollyweird, well, in this case, it wouldn't be Hollyweird because it's in Russian, but which that reminds me, I had a dream last night, and I woke up like 1 o'clock in the morning and had a dream that I was hanging out with Vladimir Putin. How freaking strange, because I never think about him, and he doesn't write anymore to me. No, I don't hang out with dictators, especially short ones. They have a really poor track record of being nice people. But yeah, I had a dream that I was hanging out with Vladimir Putin for whatever reason. I was going to negotiate with him for talk some sense into him, and the next thing I know, I'm hustled into some underground metro system, high-speed metro system underneath Moscow, and I'm in some safe room or whatever. Weird shit. I don't get to pick what I dream about. It certainly wouldn't be that. Psychedelic. That's the word I'm thinking of. I don't know all these drug terms. Maybe I need to do drugs to figure them out. I know a couple of people between that people that have done drugs in the past. I don't think they do them now. So between that and Narcos Mexico, everything about drugs is what I've learned from. I don't know jack shit about drugs. You want to mix some drinks though? We can have a conversation. I'm not gonna comment on that drink, Tony. Just don't dream about Catherine. Deal. Because we all get to decide what that's about. Oh man. You know, and you wake up and you remember things like vividly what you were doing. And then, like 4 to 5 hours later, you don't remember anything about it, because it really didn't happen, There's nothing tactile, smells, none of it, was anything you really experienced. So that's why you forget stuff like that. But anyways, getting back to 3 movies that had a shocking value to me. I don't want to say a profound influence on me because I don't think any of them influenced me. Thankfully. I got to think what the third one is now. Oh, I remember. So the first one, in age, the first one I was visiting some friends of my mom that we were visiting in Mexico. And this was the early 80s, and they had the original Halloween on. And I remember I was like 10 or 11 at the time, watching a freaking rated R movie or whatever. That shit I never did. I didn't have any older brothers. I had an older sister, but she moved out of the house very early on, like when I was like 4. So that doesn't really count. So I didn't have any older siblings that I could sneak in and watch a movie while they were watching it. But Halloween, rated R movie, watching it when I'm 11 years old or something like that. And there's that one scene, the only thing I can remember is that guy getting pinned to the door with a freaking big knife. I mean, if I saw that movie now, I've only seen it one time. If I saw it now, I'd be like, this is a freaking joke, But I don't watch horror movies. They just put messed up ideas in your head, and then you can't sleep, and it's all BS, So, I don't watch any movies that involve characters that can't be killed normally, because you just figure, okay, this is a movie about somebody who's breaking into a house or whatever. So just freaking unload your 9mm into him, and he's not, and it's over. Nah, this is like supernatural shit. Like you can't half-ass supernatural, like you can't kill him kind of thing. So I don't watch stuff like that. But I remember as a kid, man, I couldn't sleep. Man, I had trouble sleeping with that. That was the first one that I saw. And like I said, I really haven't seen any what I would call shocking movies. I don't go out of my way to find them even to this day. Number 2, when I was 16 years old, I think it was when I was 16, they were playing War and Remembrance on TV. And I was already into World War II stuff. And, I was watching that live as they showed it every week. And they had that one scene at Auschwitz where they had the piles of and it's all in color. So it's not like the World War II stuff that's black and white. And it was really powerful. I mean, really, really powerful. Like, that was like extreme, I think that when they did a movie like Schindler's List, they really missed out, in my opinion, on the powerfulness of the movie by you doing it in black and white. I think that when you see stuff like that in color, it really drives home what a horrible spectacle that really is. And I'm not downplaying it that it's not as that it's not horrible because it's in black and white, but I'm just telling you, for me, it was when I saw all those bodies that were just piled on top of each other, you know, it was pretty extreme. It was pretty, you know, and people need to see that. I mean, to understand the reality of what that was, you know, just unbelievably. See what comments we got here. Da-da-da-da-da. It is very woke. I'm out. And the notion of Christian Vikings doesn't work for me, despite it being accurate. Well, there were Christian Vikings, but that's not, when you think of Vikings, you don't think of them being Christian. But that was late. I mean, it wasn't until like 1100 in it or something like that. 1000 or something like that. Doesn't work for me despite being accurate. Thought the show just wasn't good. The Trench has Daniel Craig in it. Okay. I'm not going to comment. Okay. Don't think I dream about named people. Good morning, Kevin. I'll take some Irish whiskey on the rocks or some good bourbon. I've dibs on it. I had one of those odd dreams last night with a lion. You know. Yeah. I don't like horror movies either. No Superman. Yeah, you know what I mean. A horror movie where you can't be killed. If you want a good shot to your feels about your soul, take a trip to the Holocaust Museum in New York City. Never forget the things I saw there. I don't know. I haven't been to New York City since 2000 and... I flew in the first time just before the millennium. I mean, like, the Christmas of the millennium. Just before the millennium. So 99. Then I went in like 2002, 2003. Haven't gone back. Don't know that it's high on my things to go to again. I much prefer DC. I mean, it's not even close. I think everybody needs to go to New York to realize how good it is that you don't live there. I mean, maybe people like living in New York, but that's not my thing. They have a Holocaust museum in DC too. We just didn't get around to seeing it, but third movie. I was at a party, or a gathering. I shouldn't say it was a party. It was a gathering, and I would have been 20 through 22. Something like that. 20 through 22. See, I didn't have a vehicle. I don't know. And they were showing Caligula. And yeah, it was freaking disturbing. That was disturbing, so. That's the 3 shocking movies. Haven't seen anything else that has had that effect. All right, how are we doing on the color here? Let's compare it to the one that's the closest in color. We're good. We're not straying too close to that. All right, is this going to be the guy we're going to do the brown pants on? Let's give this guy some brown pants. I dreamed I got attacked by what I think was a bobcat or something and had me pinned, and a lion came out of nowhere, and the next thing I know I was being pulled into a lion's den with the cubs around me. It was an odd dream to say the least. Yeah, I've had stuff like that happen before. Maybe not a lion, but, you know, things where you're like in danger or whatever. I've had a lot of dreams that seem like you're dead in the dream. As long as you play dead, you're okay. But as soon as they find out you're faking it, you really die. That seems like a pretty common denominator. I'm pretty common meaning, it happens, I don't know, once a year or something like that, and not every week or something. That would be horrific. The other common denominator I've had is ones that involve suction. It's not what you think. I call it suction, but you're somewhere on the earth, and something happens, like you jump or a big gust of wind comes, and it picks you up, and you just keep going higher and higher and higher. Maybe a hot air balloon is probably more accurate, and you just keep going higher and higher and higher. And you're like, when's this going to stop? And you wake up. Tornadoes. I've had tornado dreams many times. I've never seen a tornado, thankfully. Don't want to. But I've had dreams where, you see one coming, and then you're like, okay, where do I go? So you go one thing, and the son of a bitch is following you. That's probably the only ones I can think of right now that are bad dreams that I've had that seem to be recurring. And recurring, I mean like once a year. I don't mean like, every week I'm having nightmares. And if you want to have some memorable dreams, eat a big meal and go to bed. Because, man, there's all kinds of stuff that goes on. Maybe that stuff goes on all the time. You just don't remember. But if you're digesting in the middle of them, man, you're about to go to a double feature. Odd thing was, the lion pulled me to safety and licked my wounds. Huh. Yeah. I don't believe in none of that dream analysis. I think it's just bullshit. But all you got to do is, have it happen to you, and then you realize, oh, no, it's not really bullshit. But we don't get to pick what the heck they are. Because if they are, I don't think you'd be picking a lion cub kind of thing. There'd be something else licking your wounds, if you know what I'm saying. Oh, man. Yeah, so World War II movies. I never finished watching Hacksaw Ridge. I watched like the first third. It just got bored. I don't like Pacific stuff to begin with, and it just like went nowhere. Like, this is a movie about somebody who doesn't want to fight. Like, well, why am I watching a World War II movie then? It's just like one of the movies that always has the most split, probably the most split take on it is Thin Red Line. People either love it or hate it. I saw it one time, and I fall into the hate it category because that's not what I want the movie to be. I don't care about the personal psychological experience. I'll watch another different movie for that. I want to see hardware and gear in action. That's why I want to see it. I want to see freaking tanks. I want to see machine guns. I want to see tactics played by reenactors in front of my eyes. That's why I watch. That's why I watch horror movies. No, that's why I watch war movies. That's why I watch them. So, actually, I don't know anyone. I don't personally know anyone who likes that movie. But if you look at bulletin boards, maybe it's just trolls. Oh, it's the best war movie ever. I'm like, okay. Maybe because it has psychological parts to it. There's other movies that have psychological parts to war stuff, and pretty much most people agree that they're good movies. Like Platoon. Platoon has a fair amount of psychological stuff on it. Different war, but nonetheless. Hey, you're not allowed to view my dreams with Catherine Winnick. But are you gonna be able to spell her name real easily? Many times you bring that up. I hate recurring dreams. Freaks me out. The combat of Thin Red Line was pretty good, but the rest of the movie wasn't that great. Yeah, it wasn't what I want to see. Let's see. Go get some more coffee. I'll be right back. Well, the time is really changing now. It's just past 6:30. It's already bright. Huh. I prefer it this way, though. I'll have to see Thin Red Line at some point, but I remember not liking it. I also didn't like the Pacific that much, but it jumped around a lot. I think that was the problem. Is if I remember correctly, it didn't follow. The people it followed went all kinds of different paths. Yeah. Recurring dreams are annoying because it's like, man, here's my opportunity to dream about something new. Oh, shit, this again. You know? Well, these pants are kind of brown. All right, so here's a question for you. Let's say Catherine Winnick was never around. Who's number two? Just to mix up the cast of characters a little bit. Oh, shield, man. I feel like I need a green shield, but not go crazy with the green. There's one thing I want to do with a bunch of little crosses on it. And it's got to be a dark colored shield. I've seen ones of it in black. I guess we could just do this one in black and just see how it looks. Let's just do that. Huh, I like it when I talk myself into stuff. Let's just give this a good coating of black. You know, my daughter was watching a movie last night, and I was slightly miffed that she didn't ask me to watch it with her. But, and it was that new Batman thing. She's like, Dad, you're not going to like it. I said, well, I already don't like the casting. I don't know that and I hadn't seen that dude and everything, but just looking at him, like, Batman's one of the characters that, you know, one of the superheroes or whatever that I like. But then I saw who they had playing some of the characters, and I'm like, I'm out. I don't want to see this. I don't like things being reimagined for a new generation so soon. It's not like you're doing it 100 years later or 50 years later. It's like freaking 10 years later. Let's redo everything. You'd love to see a movie where Romans have appropriate gear. Hello, it's the weekend. Yes, studio, it certainly is. They never have the right kit. So the kit that was in Gladiator isn't correct, huh? They always use the Lorica segmentata for an earlier period stuff. I've given up on historical stuff. They're just going to get it wrong. They're just going to get it wrong, and then they have an agenda where they want to change what really happened. And like, just tell the freaking story, man. Most of these historical stories, like, you don't have to make this stuff up. It's so freaking good. All right, we're gonna do the shield. We'll come back to the shield. We'll come back around for that, and I don't know. I do ancients, but I'm not an expert on it. I mean, there's just some stuff that there's some Roman experts out there that, I mean, obviously you watch something like, Cleopatra or whatever, and everything's friggin' wrong. But I could pick out the World War II stuff wrong in a moment. And then there's some historical stuff you're glad they never made. Like, I remember when they were talking about doing a Hannibal movie with Vin Diesel. There's a bad idea. Number 2, Anna Kendrick. Yeah, she doesn't do anything for me. She totally, there's, and I've mentioned this before. I've mentioned this to my wife too. I don't know that I've seen a movie with her in it. Obviously, I know who she is, but she's got to be in a movie. She should be cast in a movie as the daughter of Tina Fey, of her character. They look so similar. They totally could be mother and daughter in a movie. I'm surprised they haven't done that. I'm surprised they haven't done that. For that period, Lorica segmentata was early imperial. Not for that period. Lorica segmentata was early imperial and was being phased out in the early 3rd century CE. Okay, but Gladiator was like 190 AD. Somebody said something about the helmets were different. Whatever. I didn't catch it. It went over my head, so that's actually probably good. Believe took place right period. Did use the right kit. Okay, never mind. I didn't read ahead. For some reason, I thought it was later than Imperial period. It was early 2nd century. Yeah, it was 190 AD. Whatever. I believe that's when it took place. So. I like the Romans, but I like the Romans when they're the Republic. Romans. Emperors, I just can't. They're just so damn weird. They're all of them so damn weird. I don't know. Who's your favorite Roman emperor? I don't know. Probably Trajan, but, even he had a bad haircut. He died of natural causes, didn't he? Yeah. Well, that's unusual right there. I like the pre Julius Caesar Rome. They had cooler enemies. And I'm not throwing the Byzantines in with Rome. I mean, they're different. I don't care. Well, we consider ourselves the Romans. Well, tough titty, you're the Byzantines to me. I mean, to me, a Roman army is damn near all infantry. If it's an infantry fighting force predominantly. You know, you win with the infantry. If your infantry don't engage, you know, you're not doing it right. That's to me what the Romans are. So yeah, there's other versions of them, but I should. Nah, I got plenty to do. I said I should build another Republican Roman army. I should redo my guys for the Punic Wars with all the cool figures that they have now with the forged in battle guys. I'll save that energy when I want to build like command stands or something like that. I would like in sometime in the future to play a game where there's separate commanders in a DBA size game. Might just have to create my own rules for that. But that'd be pretty cool to have a little stand, like a little round base that, you know, would have Marius on it, or as opposed to Sulla or Scipio or even Hannibal. I'm surprised nobody commented on the discussion we had at the end of, maybe nobody saw it, at the end of one of the series that we did talking about who the best commander was, comparing Alexander to Hannibal. I don't like the Carthaginians. I don't. But Hannibal was a freaking, of all the ancient commanders, he's easily the best one. Easily the best one, in my opinion. Karen Gillan and Emily Rossum. I'm not sure who Emily Rossum is. Karen Gillan is just so freaking tall. She's like taller than I am, and I'm not short. She's like 5'11", she's like 6 foot. She's a monster. 180 is kind of middle empire. And she's really weird to watch in interviews. Karen Gillan is just really weird. She's either got a condition or she's like trying too hard. She's cute, there's no doubt about it, but she's just really awkward to watch in interviews. So, Augustus Caesar, because his rise to power is quite interesting, and he ushered in the Pax Romana. I don't like him at all. I do not like Augustus Octavian, and I'll tell you why. And yeah, I'm affected by shows. The guy who played him in Rome was a dick. I wanted to punch that little bastard in the face. Now, he was a how should I call him? He was he kind of gave me the feels. He gave me the feels. He made me feel kind of how Joffrey was in Game of Thrones. I mean, obviously he wasn't that kind of a megalomaniac, but he was just a dick that was always had to be right. And he didn't have any charisma in himself to like want to follow you somewhere. Like for instance, and a lot of it is like who the actor played him, whatever, because I love the actor that played Mark Antony, and I'm definitely a fan of Antony over Octavian. Definitely. Might have to do with what his name is. Just saying, possibly had something to do with that. But yeah, I did not like the Octavian character in Rome. Still being on the imperial period. Have a bucket list goal, build a Roman legion that is man per man in 6 millimeters. Doable, I think. Alexander is far better commander than Hannibal. I disagree. Hannibal would have been exposed quite fast against the military mind of Alexander. I think that here's the difference, and we talked about this. Here's the difference. And I'm not saying Alexander sucked. Don't get me wrong. But Alexander got handed an army to a large degree. His army was already pretty much done. He had really experienced guys he could count on. And they knew their part how to do it, and they knew their part how to do it well. Alexander would be the guy that if you had him in a DBA game, when he charged into combat, he'd get a +3. He was really good for like a hands-on, go in there and get shit done guy. But as an overall guy, I don't think he was any good, because he'd go off and do his thing, and other things would fall apart, and he was very risk-taking. Hannibal, on the other hand, had an army that was just a bunch of freaking outcasts that he put together because of his charisma. If he would have gotten killed after he crossed the Alps at Trebia, his army wouldn't have done shit. His deputy commanders wouldn't have been able to do anything. Whereas Alexander's deputy commanders, well, they may not have been like, we're going to take over the freaking world because I consider myself a god, so to speak, but they would have been able to fend for himself. So Alexander definitely had a core of guys he could count on that knew how to get shit done. But Hannibal, without Hannibal, his army is just, look at it in DBA. It's just garbage. Not garbage, but it's just a bunch of amalgamations of things that just don't work well together. So, as much as I dislike the Carthaginians, I don't dislike the Carthaginians because I like the Romans so much. I just don't like the Carthaginians. Can't get over that child sacrifice thing. I don't care if it's fake. It's at least half right, and that's just no, not doing that. I'm not killing my own kids. Sorry. Screw you and your God if you try to do that to me. But I just think Hannibal is, Alexander would not have been able to survive freaking 14 years. Now, he didn't take Rome, but, the thing about the Romans is those sons of bitches, at least the early ones, they don't give up, and they get their ass kicked and they still don't give up. I look at the First Punic War. They didn't know how to fight at sea, so they built a navy. So they built this big navy. They crushed the Carthaginians in a battle. Or actually, I think the first time they got crushed. Then they built another navy. Then they crushed the Carthaginians. Then on the way back from the battle, there's a big storm that sinks the whole navy. They got to build a navy again. It's just like those guys just don't give up. That's just like it's a brick wall. You can't pound your head in. Oh, we'll use more heads. It's like you just can't give up with those guys. So that doesn't mean I dislike Alexander. I'm just saying that of all the ancient people, Hannibal is he's just incredible. I'm really, now he didn't win every battle, but man, that guy he was something else. He was absolutely something else. Because you're not just like fighting battles. You're like, okay, go get supplies, and okay, fake them out that they were coming over here, and we're going to go this way, and light fires, but light twice as many, so they think there's more people, and then we'll fake them. Just every single day was like a fake session, and that's just the stuff that we know about him. There's a lot of stuff that's been lost about those 14 years. It doesn't exist. I think as a commander, Hannibal was better. I think Alexander's army was better. There's no doubt about it. You place Hannibal against Alexander, the type of set piece battles they liked to fight, Hannibal would not win. Well, his army wasn't as good. His tactics were actually not that great. He had the benefit of facing poor Roman commanders. No, the advantage The advantage that he had is the Romans were very predictable, but so were the Persians. You know, Alexander led from the front. It wouldn't go off cavalry charges. Scipio Africanus is a better general than Hannibal. What? Wow. Hannibal's rolling in his grave. I disagree. But hey, you know, you're allowed to have your own opinion. Scipio just wasn't as predictable. And there were some good Roman commanders. Marcellus. Marcellus was a good one. I got a book on him on my to read list, but the battles that I did with Mitch actually went pretty historical as far as he won the ones that he should have won and he lost the ones that he should have lost. I'm actually surprised how it wasn't a foregone conclusion, but Scipio did beat Hannibal in that one, so maybe there's a little bit of truth to it. Flexibility is something I value extremely highly as a commander. And inspiring your people, you have to inspire your people. If you don't inspire your people, you're not a good commander. End of story. Now, both of the guys did that. If I'm playing in a tournament, and you could say you can either use the Carthaginian army or Alexander's army, I'm taking Alexander's army every time. You know, it just has more solid stuff you can count on. How about Genghis Khan? I hate the Mongols. Never mind, I like the Carthaginians. I hate the Mongols. I really don't like the Mongols at all. He double-enveloped Hannibal and Zama using the same method Hannibal used at Cannae. So, he had a lot of really shit troops at Zama. You know? He had a lot of really shit troops. And he went bowling with those elephants right off the bat. So, Tony, good points. Alexander conquered most of the known world, destroyed far larger armies and siege cities. Hannibal benefited from a military broken Roman political system. Alexander inspired his men to conquer most of the known world. Hannibal falls short in that regard. Alexander had more people. Alexander didn't have to fight Rome. I don't know. I think Hannibal's a better commander. Commander, the Alexander army's better. I actually don't like the Hannibal army at all. But look what he did with what he had. Who else? Who else ancient commanders that aren't those two guys? A lot of it depends on who you're fighting, you know. I don't think that, you know, Caesar conquering the Gauls is as big as an achievement as Alexander conquering the Persians. I mean, the Gauls were all like discombobulated and fighting each other, and you know, you got Roman legionnaires basically at the peak of their efficiency. You know, I'm not saying I could do better. I'm just saying that, you know, no argument that Zama had lesser quality troops than Zama, but he fell for his own tactic. That may have been. He's old. He could only see. He only had one eye. I forgot to throw that one in there. He won most of his battles with only one eye. Oh, man. Now, here's the question. Is Alexander a bad guy? I don't think so. But then I profoundly look at things from a Western viewpoint, and I make no apologies. So I profoundly look at things from a Western viewpoint. And I'm not changing either. It's not going to be woke Tony. Was he a megalomaniac? Sure. So was everybody else that's a leader that we've heard of. You know, Themistocles. What was he, the Nate? Is he like the Nate? I get all those Cleese guys mixed up. Was he the naval commander at Salamis? That sounds like who he was. Alexander won all his battles leading from the front, inspiring men to conquer the known world, going to argue with you. Was Tony. Well, how about this? How about Alexander's army didn't need Alexander as much as Hannibal's army needed him. Without Hannibal, his army falls apart. End of story. It did. It even fell apart with him commanding in the last battle. I'm sure there's people out there crying that, oh, Persians should have been left alone, Alexander. Payback is always a good, that's always a good backstory. I remember turning 33 and thinking, what the fuck have I done in my life compared to Alexander? Well, everything's relative. You know, you could be, oh man, I'm 33 and I haven't made love to a boy yet either. So, it's all relative. There wasn't anything else to do, man. There was no hobbies. What else are you going to do but conquer the world? I don't have time for that. I got to paint figures. So I'm a pacifist. I want to leave people alone. Do whatever you want. I'm glad I wasn't born in a time period before air conditioning. That's all I'm saying. Actually, wasn't one of the things about Alexander's army that was unique to the other Greeks is they wore shoes. They wore like boots and stuff. As opposed to wearing sandals or something. I mean, that's an advantage. I don't want to go into battle barefoot or wearing sandals. What's this guy got? A part of his beard. I need to paint a clean shaven army next, man. I'm tired of these beard jokers. Bearded folks. I've won more battles in DBA than Alexander has. I'm a better commander. Oh, without Alexander, there wasn't another military mind like his that could have done what he did. But supposed he was a demigod. At least not in Macedonia, and may have inherited the army from Philip, but Alexander mastered the army in ways his father never did. Be right back, have to use the restroom. I told you to wear a diaper. They make them in your size. We got to go to a different brush for this. I might not even be able to do that one. All right, let's get crazy. Wow, that thing's small. Whew. Let's save this for something real special. I don't need to go that small. Well, these are really, really small. I think this one will do. Of course, we got to trim something off of it. Typical. There we go. So I guess if you're a big fan of Alexander, you probably don't like the Alexander movie. Again, other than, in my opinion, other than the guy being miscast, which I think he was totally miscast. They shouldn't have cast that guy as him. It just focused too much on the shit that we didn't want to see. We wanted to see more battles and tactics and shit like that. Romans were clean shaven. Well, the beginning they were, yeah. Supposedly, what I heard is they got that from Alexander. That's what the rumor I had is. In which case, that's the most long-lasting thing that he had. I suppose Alexander's successors showed that Macedonian military machine was superior to Hannibal's riffraff. Also showed that none of Alexander's successor generals were equal to Alexander. Half the problem was they backstabbed each other. You know? The backstabbing. Well, that's the whole reason that frickin' Alexander, wasn't around. Yeah, you get done in by your own people. That's not what she said, Tony. I don't know what that was in reference to. Ptolemy had a good mind, at least. I have to fault him for producing Cleopatra. Didn't like Alexander movie. Also didn't like being flashed with Colin Farrell's balls in that movie either. Depends which version you see. I think there's like 3 versions. I don't know. I don't mind the nudity if it's appropriate. If it's just there to just do it. Oh, I'm being loud with a gun. Well, I need to... So I don't go through another gallon of liquid and have to take bathroom breaks. I need to keep my mouth moistened. So we'll try to keep it down. It's either that or crunch and ice. You get to pick which one. All right. Let's see. Where were we finishing this thing up? I don't care about the nudity stuff as long as it's appropriate. If it's done there to push something. And no sneezing on videos either. This is so small. You said that with the brushes. There you go. Got to build that. Pyrrhic armies. Soon. My favorite Alexandrian type commander. Easily. Didn't say he was better than Alexander. He's just a lot more interesting in my opinion. So, killed by a roof tile. Dumbass. Wear a helmet, moron. He had elephants with towers. There you go. And they even made an Osprey book on him. And I didn't learn anything new from it either. I didn't already know. That was depressing. Figured, ooh, there'll be some juicy tidbit. Nope. Okay, I think that'll do. What color was the other guy's beard? It was a black. That's good because I don't want a black beard next to a black shield. Let's make this guy like a light brown. This one should be able to do fine with it. Not doing that something that fine with that. Who do I think was the best general of World War II? Oh, I don't want to go there. Make that your next army after the Byzantines. We'll see. They'll look awesome, though. They would look awesome. I got all the right figures now. They would look awesome. Who is the best general of World War II? Oh, man, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. There's so many variables. There's so many variables. There's so many variables. Did I mention there's so many variables? If you compare, like, say, you know, you compare some guy, a huge thing that I think it's a huge factor when you're talking about something about World War II is supplies and air support. If you're fighting against somebody who has total domination of the air, is that really an accurate determinant? Or, when you have total air superiority, you know, are you really that much better? Well, you are, because, the guys can't, do that. So you can't compare like the 41 Germans versus the 44 Germans versus the Americans. You can. I've been out of it. I've been out of it for a while. There's a lot of things to consider, and I haven't really read a whole lot of World War II since the Russian archive stuff opened. I'm not saying that one of the better generals is Russian. Would be very, I wouldn't say that at all. They just don't have enough regard for their own people. I'm not saying that, other ones didn't have the same issue, but I'm just saying that I don't know any Russian commander that didn't say, we better be careful. We want our people to survive for the next one. They're like, just send the sons of bitches in. So, now it doesn't mean that they didn't necessarily have some finesse or whatever towards the end of the war or even mid-war, but I haven't really read anything about it. And I mean, even though, you can't necessarily trust what's written in their documents, because a lot of their stuff was to protect their own skins. At the same time, it is a counterpoint to all the stuff that we just had when I was growing up, only from one viewpoint, being the German one. And, I think that if you get something from only one viewpoint, it's going to be severely biased. It's going to be inaccurate. Forget about being biased. It's going to be inaccurate. So comparing and contrasting two things is probably the way to go. I'll leave it at that. You take somebody like Patton. I'll use Patton as a perfect example. There's very few times, if any, that any German commander had the amount of supplies and air superiority that Patton had when he did it. That's not to poo-poo Patton. I think Patton's probably the best American general of that time, of any period. But you can't really compare the two because of that. It's a huge problem. And just like you can't compare early and late Germans, like for instance, early Germans had a lot more flexibility what they could do. At the end of the war, Hitler's meddling in everything they're doing. So even if they had a good plan and they had decent supplies, they're like, you got to do this or we're going to sack you. So, that's affecting how well you do. So So I'm not going to answer that question because it used to be an easier question to ask. And now there's just a lot of things that's comparing apples to rutabagas. So maybe you could compare it by nation, like who do you think is the best American commander, or so forth. I think that's probably a more accurate than comparing across nations and say something like World War II. I think that's probably more accurate. Yes, I did several times. In fact, damn spell check. Lawless. I would say an argument could be made for Guderian, Rommel, Patton, Montgomery, even Eisenhower. Modal was pretty good as well. Patton was not as good a general off the battlefield. Oh, well, that's not what they're paid to do. I don't concern myself with Joan did what off the battlefield. I want to know what Joan did in combat. Yeah, a lot of it depends on what resources they had, you know. What resources they had. All right, who do I think is the best German commander of World War II? I don't know. On that top tier level, you're talking about field marshals and what's the next step under a field marshal? Is it colonel general? I think that's what it is. Guys that are commanding on that level. You know, if you take somebody who's pretty well regarded, who was pretty much regarded as the top German general, at least when I was growing up, von Manstein. He's almost, if you fill out a survey, as I've seen lots of them, top German commander of World War II. And we're not talking about guys that run one division. We're talking about guys who are running army groups or whatever. Von Manstein is going to be towards the very top, if not the top one that people give for whatever reasons, whether they're right or wrong. It's just kind of been the, you know, the one that's on there. He didn't win that many things. It's almost like he prevented a disaster from turning into a complete rout more than anything else. I mean, he doesn't come into his own on that top tier level until basically Army Group South, or whichever B he was. I mean, he might have been Army Group B of South or whatever, you know. So he shored up Stalingrad. That was his first thing he did. Well, that's not a win. I mean, he went on the offense in Kharkov in early 43, and then he was the southern front of Kursk. Well, that didn't work out. You know, Kharkov, I guess, was a limited success, but Kursk didn't work out. And then he just, you know, he was over in Army Group South trying to shore the Russians from frickin' just blowing right into Romania and stuff like that. But, you know, so yeah, here's our best commander. Well, he didn't win anything. You used him basically. He was in that top tier level when they were completely on the strategic defensive. So, you know, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying that, you know, and, you know, Guderian kicked ass, but they had they had everything. I mean, they had early 41, they just freaking blew holes in the freaking Russians. And then they just, you know, and then things went sideways. You know, they ran out of land, fuel, fill in the blank. His whole offensive got held up by that one KV2. Remember that story? Was it KV1 or KV2 that held up a whole division for like a week or something like that? That's a great little mini story. You know, but again, it goes back to what we're talking about, Alexander and Hannibal. Who is he fighting? He was fighting troops that weren't experienced. They weren't well supplied. Their commanders didn't give a shit whether they surrendered or, I'm not really surrendered, but whether they were massacred or not. Commanders that had been purged. They had complete air superiority. I'm not saying he sucked, but it's something to consider, you know. There's just a lot of different stuff. Now, if you ask a question like, what commanders do I like reading about and what campaigns they were in, well, that's a little different. That's a little easier to answer. I am a big fan of Wintergewitter. That's the relief effort to relieve Stalingrad. I think that a lot of those actions are very interesting. I think the winter stuff is very neat, except 41 where it's just very one-sided. I don't like one-sided type conflicts. So late 42 is pretty par as far as the force compositions. You got more Russians, you got less Germans. The Germans are a little better than the Russians as a whole. I think it's good parity. You know, that mid-war period is pretty cool as far as that goes. Moto was pretty good as well. Don't concern yourself. All right. What do you think? Top tier commander. What's your favorite World War II campaign? I'm going to assume it's Barbarossa. It's Barbarossa. Desert's number 2. Easy. Barbarossa just has everything in it. Barbarossa is just, it has numbers, it has equipment, it has 2 bad guys fighting each other. It's just the best. It just is. It's the whole war was decided there. Yeah, Desert's number 2, and Desert has something that Barbarossa doesn't have. At least for me, the Desert has 2 opponents that were equally interesting to play. I like that. You know, the Germans have really cool equipment. That's why they're popular. People like to play the Germans just because, you know, and now there's this thing, people like to pretend that they're trying to make them win or some political motivation or whatever. That's just bullshit. At least the people I've encountered growing up, people like to play the underdog and try to do better than the underdog did. So, and the German equipment's really freaking cool. I'm sorry. They're just like masters of that stuff. I mean, yes, they were rat bastards. There's no doubt about it. But they were really good at marketing. So, what color are we going to do for the belt on this guy? Let's go with this. And the desert, I'll use desert rats as an overall scheme, are just as interesting as the Africa Corps, in my opinion. The Brits have cool tanks. Yeah, they've got deficiency. It doesn't matter. Not everything has got to be good at everything else. They have cool paint schemes and unit designations and English and Germans fighting each other has just kind of become kind of a classic thing, Whereas the Eastern Front is really cool, but the Germans are more interesting than the Russians. They just are, at least for me. Now, don't get me wrong. I love playing freaking Russians and stuff because you could do, the jokes just write themselves, But take like Russian tanks or whatever. They're just not very painted excitedly. Now, equipment-wise, they're fine. I mean, everything is really interesting. But as far as, they didn't have any unit designations. I mean, looking at it from a modeler standpoint also, they're just not as interesting. But as far as overall campaign and stuff, yeah, Barbarossa's where it's at. And the American stuff is just boring. I mean, it just is. It is to me. Maybe if I'm European or something like that, I wouldn't see that way. But, the U.S. stuff is just, is it practical? Absolutely. But, I'm not thinking of practical. I'm a war gamer, damn it. Like the German equipment, well, I like to play them. Anyone who claims people want to play them, make them win for political reasons, or woke idiots who should have their opinion. A privilege is removed. When I was growing up, that wasn't the case. Nobody wants the Germans to win. That's ridiculous. Of course, I like doing the Eastern Front because you don't want either one to win. I don't think the Russians are any better than the Germans. But that's not why you're playing a war game. You're doing it for the strategy, not the ideology. So, I will. If I'm handed a Mongol army, yeah, I will burn and torch and pillage my way across the world, regardless of what I really think about them. So yeah, every situation is really different. You take somebody like Rommel, he had to deal with stuff that other people didn't have to deal with. The Italians, he had to deal with that, working within that structure, and he didn't like them, and he didn't feel like they pulled their weight, and at the same time, he had to deal with that within his. And it was a significant part of his force was Italians. So now with all that said about I don't like American equipment, I can't wait to build like 4 Shermans and make them all individual and give them all nicknames and stuff like that. And yes, they're ugly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could give them like the whoever did the. I didn't love the movie Fury, but when they had those 4 little tanks, then they made them. The people that made the movie made them all individual. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really neat how they all gave them different type of armor. There's a million different variants of Shermans and stuff like that, and some are, you definitely can give them an individual look. So even with something that's kind of boring, you still have something like that. 42 Germans and Japanese both stopped. You mean they were stopped? Yeah. Well, the resources, etc. USA Soviet Army is just not inspiring to paint. I find both boring. I think the USA is a lot more boring than the Soviets. I never call them Soviets. I never call them Soviets and Nazis. I always call them Germans and Russians. See, I don't put politics in it. Italians are pretty useless as a fighting force. Chastise their formation and brazen chariots all the time. Only the Ariete division was worth anything. There was another one that was okay. I can't remember which one it is. Littorio. Littorio was another one of their armored divisions. And didn't they have like an airborne division called Folgore? I haven't read this stuff in 30 years. You're stationed in Germany, talked to some veterans of the war with interesting stories. Most interesting conversation I had with a World War II veteran was an American who served in Italy as a sniper. Well, the Italian ships are beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. Most of them. Regardless of fighting spirit / supply issues, fuel issues. Was there an Axis force that didn't have was fuel issues? I don't think so. Maybe early in the war. It just seems like the common denominator. Oh, out of fuel again. I gotta go check on something to make sure somebody's awake. I know I didn't have an alarm clock, but it is kind of extremely late to not be hearing somebody moving around. Hold on 1 second. I will be right back. You must depart. Okay. I like stories of the World War I pilots. I don't know that I've read any. Oh, I guess I need to turn the screen back on. I told you I was an amateur. I just know how to paint. That's it. I pretty much suck at everything else. I'm good with directions too. Directions, map, some history, and I paint. That's it. I'm just a fishing weight for everything else. All right. So we need a little hat on this guy. Let's do a more buff colored hat for this guy. Buffy. Let's see. Yeah, I'm surprised that people won't. There's some people that just won't play some things. Well, I'm not surprised. I guess I could just use that color, but it's just a principle if this is a different one. Maybe we'll mix some brown with this one and make it a little slightly different. I'll play anybody. I'll play anybody in a game. I don't care who they are or what their ideology is. Role play a little bit. I don't espouse that ideology just because I'm playing them. And that was always the case, at least the people that I played with. I'm surprised how many bad experiences some people have with wargamers. You know, people that like throw dice and get angry and, you know, it's just a game, folks, and you need to have fun. You know, the same thing if you're beating the crap out of somebody. Shouldn't rub it in too hard. It is just a game, and, you know, they're trying to... There's dice involved. I like to razz people, but, you know, it happens, you know. Sometimes no matter what you do, you're not going to win. I think I need new white here. You know, I've learned a lot just from playing games. And whether it's board games, video games, whatever, you can't take whatever you find out as a you know, through the game or whatever as a word of God, but at least it's a starting point to when you learn more about a period. And I was playing this game relatively recently. I haven't played it in about a month or so. It's a World War I flight simulator on the Oculus thing. It's all in the Pacific. And I'm talking with these folks within this game, and I realize these people don't know anything about World War II aircraft at all. You know, and I'm not saying I'm the world's expert of it, but I know about all these planes from wargaming and from playing video games way back in the day, Aces of over the Pacific, and all that stuff from the early 90s. Being a modeler, modeling stuff. And realize, man, these guys just, this is just a game to them. You know, they're not a war gamer. You know, war gamers, when you paint miniatures and stuff like that, you're at a different level of people that just pick up a video game and start pressing buttons, or you know, that play a video game and just want to win or whatever. It's a different, you know, we're more interested in what really happened and what things really look like and how you represent that on the tabletop. That other folks just aren't in tune with, don't care about, etc. And yeah, I'm playing this game, figure, all right, I'll get to talk some World War II stuff. I'm like, these guys are just a bunch of numbskulls. You're just playing this game like if it was Halo or something, you know? But I guess that's probably the most common thing, you know? What was that movie? Greatest line, found train whistle embedded in bottom of guy's plane. I don't know what you're talking about. Found train whistle embedded in bottom of guy's plane. Yeah, if that's in a movie, I haven't seen it or wasn't memorable. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm not your movie guy. Speaking of world movies and planes, I just finally saw in the last week Battle Britain for the first time. I didn't try to avoid it. I just hadn't seen it. And it was strange. It wasn't what I was expecting it to be. Especially that one scene 2/3 of the way through the movie where it was all orchestra music and they were just doing like scenes of like combat, and it just seemed like it was put together weird, strangely. But movie was made in 1969. I'm watching it for the first time in 2022, so, you know. Old movies like that, only reason I'd seen them is I saw them when I was growing up, and if they didn't show them on TV, well, I didn't get to see them. So I'd seen Guns and Averons so many times because they played it. I'd seen the old Battle of the Bulge movie, which everybody likes to rip on, so many times because they played it. You know, I'm a kid. I want to see a World War II movie. That's what's on, you know. Those days are over now, where you can pretty much see anything on demand whenever the hell you want to. It's not like, well, they weren't playing it. This bastard has eyes. Another thing I used to fear painting, eyes. I'd rather not paint them, but if I have to, I'd rather not paint them because they're always out of scale. No matter how good a job you do, you're painting them a lot larger than they really are. Okay, so this guy's pretty much done other than his shoes. We're going to give him some brown shoes. We already have some brown here. Let's not use that. I said we're going to do the shield, the black shield with the little crosses on it. All right, let's see how that goes. All right, that's the advantage that I have about painting the way I do, is I paint very, very thin. So if there's something I don't like, which fortunately doesn't happen that often, it's relatively easy for me to change it and you not be able to see it. You know, brush strokes, thickness of the paint, etc. And I don't know why I paint that way. It just kind of happened. It just happened to be, I found an added benefit. Let's do the back of a shield in a brown color, even though the front's not going to be that. Let's lighten that up a little bit. These guys are painting up pretty fast. It's the cogitation about what color am I going to paint this that ends up consuming all of your time. All right, so a bunch of little different crosses. I think they've seen it with 5. 1, 2, 3, yeah. Okay, I think we can do one in the middle. We'll call it. So let's thin this white down. And let's add a little bit of black to it. I could just use a gray, but I'm lazy. I've done it this way for so many times. Actually, lazy, this is more work than doing it the other way. It's just habit. So we're going to put one right in the middle. Then we're going to put one out here. One there. One there. One there. Just a bunch of little crosses. Let's see if we can highlight that black just a tiny little bit to add a little bit of contrast to it. Wrong one. Yep. let's just do the, lighten up the border. And then this guy's done. Oh, we do have a sheath or something to paint down here. We still have some of that buff color. We were using this. And this green has a little bit of a border around his shirt. Okay, that guy's done. So now there are 5, 3 left. This has seen better days. All right, we're gonna go change this water and we'll be right back. And probably use the restroom while we're at it. Be right back. with some dirty, dirty water. Dirty water. I didn't have very much of it in here, and I had like 6 brushes soaking in there. And if you wonder, don't I care about my brushes getting damaged? They were already damaged. Like the brushes I used to like paint things in black with the... Is this thing active? If it is, let me check on one thing for... Let me check on one thing. I'm going to see if I can answer your question for you. I'm a Google master. Usually I can find anything on the internet. Yeah, I don't have enough to go on with that whistle in the bottom of a plane. I haven't seen it, or it's not memorable. Oh, I tried. Just thinking, is there any army you guys have painted that you decided to paint it because they look stupid? And you thought, maybe I could do a job. Or maybe stupid's the wrong terminology. But they look silly or unappealing. And then figured, well, maybe if I do them right, I'll make them seem more interesting. That was the reason I painted those Irish. I think the Irish were just going to be like really sucky looking. And fooled me. I liked them. Same thing with the Amorites. I kind of like these sorry looking armies. And what I mean by sorry is just mishmash of just guys that irregular looking peasantry type folks. And man, I'm really drawn to that. You know, anybody can paint really cool looking guys, but I'm drawn to these guys that look like crap. Now, we've got 2 busy shields with these guys, so the next one is going to have a plain colored shield. Okay. Let's do this color as the base. It was a scene with the commander yelling at one of his pilots for flying too low. Man, I don't know. I don't know. If it was black and white, forget it. I'm useless. There's so many black and white movies that I haven't seen. Damn near all of them. And I really don't like some of the older war movies because they're very propaganda ridden. Well, they're really similar to like modern Russian movies. These colors are almost all the same anyways. Where is the needle? Yeah, it doesn't sound like something I've seen. Or maybe I have seen the movie. It just didn't dawn on me or something. So I have a lot of armies I want to do that fall into that category. Pre-feudal Scots are one of those, guys that look like crap. Meaning they're not uniform, they're not wearing helmets. Believe it or not, I think that having an army with troops that don't typically wear helmets makes them look kind of sorry. Like an ancient army or whatever. Just, because helmets can be really cool looking. That doesn't mean that's not why I'm going to paint them, but actually an appeal to me is to guys that just don't look all that, very irregular looking. Let's go ahead and give this shield a coat of black all over it. Well, we're going to need more black than that. Oh, that's not black. That's SS camo black. SS camo black. All right, so we're going to do this color for the top of his shirt. Okay. And we're going to give this guy a slightly green shield. And it's not going to be very green. It's going to be dark and not super bright. I don't want to make these guys too colorful, too loud. Not loud and not proud. So, 3 guys left to do, this guy being one of them. I think we can power through this. And really want to see what these guys look like all put together on the basing. Anyways, that movie with a whistle, is it a good movie? Or just that's not the one part that just stuck out at you? Seems like it'd be a World War I movie, right? Use a whistle to communicate with other fighter pilots. I think it's so funny in movies when people wear helmets. There's always one guy wearing his helmet cockeyed. Yeah, it's just to show that he's a rebel. Like, I ain't gonna take shit. You want me to wear it like this? I'm not gonna wear it. Talking about like in ancient battles or whatever. In some of the modern battles, World War II, whatever. Sometimes it's difficult. You get thrown into this battle scene where you're trying to discern who the characters are and where they are. That happened in that battle that was recommended by that movie that was recommended by Nordic, The Forgotten Battle. And it starts off, there's one of the characters is a conscript. He's a Dutch conscript in the German army. And one of the scenes when he shows up, he's in combat with other folks in his unit. You have a hell of a time trying to figure out who's who, because they all look similar. And after a while, after you've seen the character, and you kind of know what their habits are and what their personality is and stuff like that. It's a little easier, but when you're thrown into a battle scene right off the bat and you're trying to figure out, okay, who's the main character in here, and they all look similar, it gets a little confusing. And that's with me watching movies with subtitles in. I don't want to miss anything there either. I always find it's funny the old World War II movies where the U.S. soldiers are always ones screwing around. And you're wondering, like, how'd they ever win a friggin' war if everybody was goofing off? But now I watched something recently, and it's like, oh, they do that in all the armies. But, you know. Joe, there he is. About time you woke up. It's time for third breakfast. I actually didn't know that was a Lord of the Rings thing. I only saw that stuff once, so it didn't like dawn on me. Or a Hobbit thing. I'm surprised so many people have read that. Like, something that's fantasy just holds no appeal for me to sit there and read it. It's just, I'd rather read about something that really happened. Who are these guys, and why the hell are they over here? Oh, the extra Cuman guys. Cuman guys. Cuman guys. That's right. That's right. That's why I just decided that we needed to call them like Cubans, but Cumans. Now, this is like a multinational army. There's very few Byzantines. So, Joe, if you do come on Monday, there's a good chance that it probably will not be filmed. There's just going to be too many folks. There's going to be 4 or 5 folks. And 4 is doable, but 5 is just too many. We need to run 2 games at the same time. You run 2 games at the same time, somebody's still sitting out. So that's not to dissuade you from coming, but hell, we film everything, so people can deal with one game not being filmed. Just don't let anything really cool happen. Don't let anything cool happen that people will miss out on. It's my fear with not filming everything. Something really awesome could happen and people don't get to see it. Mr. Gross, welcome back. We saved your spot. It's right here. For those of you keeping count, this is the sixth spearman. Finish this guy and 2 more to go, and we'll be done with these guys. 2 stands of spear. Bam! Can't wait to see them. Hopefully I like how they turn out. I feel like this guy needs to have a little red hat. And what I mean by red is it's not going to be bright red. Oh no, it can go into Santa mode. That's probably not good. Nix that. I talked myself in and talked myself out of it. run it live. I can't anymore. The video quality is horrible. It's really, really bad. And for some reason, it doesn't, like, I can run it here live. We don't play here. I could run it live here and it would be at the same quality you're seeing it here. But it's just so horrible with lots of things going on. We'll see. We'll see. Because even with 2 people playing and 2 people watching, that's a lot of background noise. And you can't expect people just sit there and just be quiet. We do enjoy showing up and talking to each other, so. I remember one guy in one video was saying, and I forget who it was, maybe they don't watch the channel anymore, but they were like, you need to keep the discussions to DBA. I'm like, this is a social game, and it is about hanging out with folks. So, just because you're not friendly doesn't mean other people aren't. And, we'll film my games. If you don't like them, well, you can film your own games and do them to your level. I don't go to other people's channels and say, I don't like your shit. Well, why are you here, There's lots of stuff I don't like. I'm very opinionated. I don't have to tell people on their channel, hey, your stuff sucks. Just go somewhere else, man. A hobby should be all positive. If you're not exuding positive vibes when you're doing your hobby, you need to do something else. Because this just doesn't pay enough. So I get real ticked off when you get somebody like it. This has actually happened one time. I had a guy that was trying to get into playing DBA and finally got him to play DBA, and he ended up being put on this side where one of the commanders was just a dick, and he basically dissuaded him from playing again. So I'm like, I hold that guy, responsible for that stuff. Gaming is only part of the reasons gamers get together. Absolutely. You like the background discussions? Yeah, I like to not edit anything. You just finish work for the day. Mitch's feet. Somebody out there likes Mitch's feet. One of the 1,503. For now, likes Mitch's feet. Captain Barefoot. Well, I'm barefoot right now, but I'm in my house. I wouldn't go to a shed and be barefoot. It's basically what it is. I don't wear shoes in the house. The house gets dirty enough as I don't even have any pets. I mean, just stuff happens. You have to clean your floors anyways, even with taking your shoes off and stuff in your house. And I don't have any pets or anything. I got to look at my statistics and figure out, do I finally have a female subscriber? There's one thing that woke things piss me off. And the other thing that pisses me off is when you try to cater to people that don't need to be catered to. And I'm just saying that, I'm not saying to poo-poo anything. I mean, if there's women gamers, I am all for it. But I admit, this is just something that women generally aren't interested in. Just like when I go to Joann's Fabrics to get little pins and stuff, I'm the only dude there. Do I have a cow about it? No. I'm in a land that, is unusual for me to be in. So Steam is working on a DBA 3.0 game. What? The internet has so much available, you could find something you like. Negative comments are so useless. Absolutely. But there's some people that don't like anything. They're just miserable, Hopefully they can find, hopefully they can die soon so they can don't need to share that miserableness with other people. There was a discussion on some group. I don't know. It might have been. I don't think it was on the miniatures page. It was probably on Facebook. It probably wasn't on the miniatures page 'cause I haven't been on there in almost 2 decades. It was really useful in its day, but the format is just way too dated, and you know, the discussions go into too many directions that I'm not particularly interested in. You know, they create bulletin boards to argue about politics and stuff. I don't care what people's politics are. We're not all going to agree on that stuff. We're not all raised the same way, and we're all different, and that's fine. I don't try to put my opinions on somebody else. At the same time, you don't have to be, you know, coerced into thinking a different way than you normally do, but to put it out in front like, hey, this group's about miniatures, but let's talk about politics here and argue about it. That's just like, you know, creating issues. But anyhow, and they were talking about how to get more females in the hobby and put on this games and stuff. It's like, you know, it's kind of like a metal detector, running a metal detector in a beach. Okay? You're never going to find any gold coins if there aren't any gold coins there. You know, you can use the best metal detector in the world, and you go to some beach where nobody's lost any coins, you're not going to find any there. It's just kind of the same thing, you know. I'm not opposed to being inclusive to other people, but, you know, this is kind of this hobby, for the most part, at least what I'm interested in, is pretty much limited to, you know, white dudes that are 10 years older than me. That's kind of the general demographic. It just is. Will it change? Well, hopefully. I think it's evolving constantly, but I've invited my wife to the club several times, and she tells me to stop threatening her. Yeah, it's just something that you're just not interested in. In today's world, what is female? Yeah, let's not go there. Yeah, some people are just looking for problems. All the tournaments that I've run at DBA, I've had 2 female players. They both had a good time. One of them even won a tournament. Good for her. We were all cheering her on. But then we never saw her again. You know, and it was like, you know, what can you do, you know? This person was actually a co-teacher with another player. So there's a player that showed up for the first time, and they were both teachers. And one guy was a history guy. He ended up bringing a co-teacher, which was female. And we gave her an army. She didn't have an army. Gave her some tips how to play. And, you know, obviously, you know, when somebody's playing, you don't want them to purposely make stupid choices. I mean, you know, you figure, okay, the person's not an idiot. So, like, okay, here's the things you can do. If you want to do that, here's the repercussions. And then they can decide, and they roll their own dice to a certain degree. Because you want them to have a good time. You know, and just showing up to get plastered is not, you know, is not a good time. Nobody benefits from that. I think this guy ought to have, I think blue pants is probably a little extreme, but the other guys get brown. White's probably too light. Do a, God, what can we do? Let's see. Let's do, what about this yucky color? Is it going to be dark enough to contrast? Let's do this yucky color. You know, there's just stuff that some people, some demographics are not involved in. You know. I mean, you see a female player, I don't go, damn, a woman. You know? I mean, maybe some people do, but I've never experienced that. Don't get beaten by a girl. None of that nonsense. Does that happen? Probably. Just like there's some people that probably play Germans because they, they have some white superiority thing, but it's nobody I've experienced with in my gameplay, so. Just like I don't currently play right now. Well, then currently play. I'm sure it's probably happened in the past, but maybe not in many years with anybody who freaking doesn't bathe or smells bad. I don't put up with that. And you got to you need to take a shower every day, whether you need it or not. At least once. Good for morale. My wife quits. Much like wargaming being mainly male-oriented quilting. Oh, my wife quilts. Okay, that's different than quits. Much like wargaming being mainly male-oriented, quilting is female-dominated. Yeah, and that's fine. I go in Joanne Fabrics and there's something I can help you with? Nope, just buying spears. I mean, I could spend half a day in there. Go look at buttons and see what kind of shields I can. Which reminds me, I got to go back there. I think I found a little cross as a pendant that would be really good as some Byzantines something. And I hadn't done the Byzantines yet when I saw it. I think I can find it. Stuff like that. I think it's cool. I'd much rather go in there and then watch live sports at a sports bar. Jeez, gag me with a spoon. I don't want to do that. I'll be hanging out with the quilters. And it's funny because all the people that I've encountered that I would call big sports fans don't play sports games on video games. And I would get into that. I don't mind playing something like Madden or something like that. But all the people that I've encountered that are sports fans, they're not into that. I guess they just want to get angry and yell at the television and shit like that. I'd rather play the game and at least have some kind of an impact. Make decisions. Decisions are fun. I like games that involve decision making. Just sitting there and watching things happen is not my cup of tea. I think this guy needs a dark red belt. Ooh, thinking outside the box. Yep. Why not? Seven viewers. People waking up. Or maybe people turned it on and went to sleep. Welcome nonetheless. Welcome and wake up. Hobby Lobby, Joann's and Michael's are great resources for miniature wargaming material. Yeah, that's the three places we have here. Yep, we have all three of those. Hobby Lobby's a pain in the ass because they're closed on Sunday. It's like, hey, I need something at Hobby Lobby. They're closed. Damn it. Michael's restructured their stores and their stuff kind of sucks. And Joann's has a lot of things that just, Hobby Lobby has a lot of things that don't really apply to us. But I enjoy going to stores if I'm not looking for something in particular. As I like to say, I like to see it, have it find me. Well, that's what reminds me. I need to return something at Harbor Freight. I ended up not using those. And I'm going to forget to do that. Actually, I don't even know where the receipt is. Oh, it's in my car. these little bits. I ended up not using these. I should just buy a shank. They actually didn't fit on any of my pin vices. Fantasy football. See, I don't get fantasy football. I don't get fantasy. And Mitch and they all play fantasy football, but I'm not involved. You know? I'm not involved. I'm not making the decisions. It's being done for me. I mean, it's good that you enjoy it. I mean, it's, enjoy what you enjoy. But Cat Roger, welcome. The Cat Man. Doing a bit of painting. Doing a bit of painting along, mate. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna knock these guys out. You doing fantasy football because you enjoy it, or doing a fantasy football for gambling, or a little bit of both, or... I can't even take risks in DBA that's got no money on the line. I'm not a gambling person. I just don't have the gambling gene in me. Oh, check me out on weekends, see what I'm doing. Ooh, I should make some fun videos. I don't do this for attention whore purposes. You know, the people that go and make videos and they're just attention whores. Look at me trying on clothes or whatever the hell it is they're doing. All that stuff that comes up on your feed. I'm like, man, these people have no freaking lives. I'm just doing this stuff and I want the company. It's boring to do this by yourself and not talk about the hobby or anything. I can't talk about painting stuff with Mitch. He don't paint. Mitch don't paint. Charlie don't surf. Mitch don't paint. For the fun of it. Okay. Always check me out on weekends. So this is what it feels like to have a man be checked out by a man. You know me, I make fun of everything. Everything's fair game. Almost everything's fair game. Almost everything. There's only a couple things that are off the books. What things are though? Well, those are the things I've never brought up. I got half a mind to replace these guys. I'm actually going to do a little experiment before I do that. And it's just replace them because their spears might stick out too far and make them have mesh issues. I'm going to do a little experiment before I start working on them. I'm going to take a couple of the guys that are in that same pose and they aren't mounted on pennies and put them on a stand and just kind of place them and see how far they jut out. I'm going to end up replacing them. I don't want that issue. Did fantasy football years ago, did it for fun, got too intense, and I got bored, so I dropped it. Yep. Did one of those. What are those leagues that they do? Those March Madness leagues at work or whatever for the basketball? I got talked into doing it one year, guilted into doing it one year, many moons ago, like over like 25 years ago, and realized I don't even want to watch basketball, you know. Right there, I prefer paint along for a bit of encouragement or listen or a history vid or audiobook or anything that helps. Yeah, I like listening to people talk. I like talk radio, but politics is just like, pissing up a rope. Like, it's not worth it. So, what else do you have? You know, there's some people that have some podcasts, some history podcasts, and some are better than others. And it just seems like a lot of the people that have podcasts are just too monotone. They're not emphatic about things. I don't know. They don't excite me. They don't excite me. And I do like to talk because you don't know what's coming next. It's kind of new, especially if it's something that's live. But there's lots of podcasts and stuff available. But this forces me to stay on task. Even if I get sidetracked with looking stuff up, I'm still on task. I'll still come back and we'll look at that. We'll come back to where we were. Like I've said before, I'm doing this for me. The fact that anybody finds any interest in this and it motivates them to paint is just an added bonus. So that's awesome. Yes, it's pins I use for spears. You know these things. Joe, I don't know if you're still on. I just caught my feed yesterday. It's 1 and 1/16 that I use. You know, just file down the ends and you're done. Take off the back. I have even more of these. Wow. Made in Malaysia. And none of these things are made in China. So the whole thing that, oh, we can only make cheap things in China, that's BS. I think these may even be in the US, so. Yeah, you never have to worry about them again. You never have to worry about them coming undone or bending. If you bent one of these things, you hurt yourself badly. You're down for the count. You are down for the count. All right, we wanted to do something dark green. We better do his face first. Let me check on the girls and see if they're out and moving around. Just a moment. I'm not even going to turn the video feed off. Okay, we can go ahead and kill this light. We don't need this one anymore. That's a good tip I've gotten from you. Reins on chariots and how pins. Yeah. Had a friend bend over to pick something off the floor and ouch, spear in the forehead. Really? You need to keep... Wow. Let me read that again. Had a friend bend over to pick something off the floor, okay, and ouch, spear in the forehead. You got your forehead. He's extremely nearsighted. I mean, the spear's only... What's your forehead doing 3 inches off the floor? Is that the dot on your head? No, it's blood, damn it. I got poked by a spear. Wow. And that would be, if I had to look at something on the floor, yeah, that would be me. I'd have to be like, inches from the floor. Lucky it wasn't an eye, yeah. Yeah, there's no coming back from that. No coming back from that. I don't know why some of these colors are drying so fast, but they are. I cleaned all this up, and I'm already encroached by all these paints. Look at this. Look at all this crap just sitting here. It's find it very distracting. I've seen other people's paint areas, and I'm like, how do you guys function? How do you guys even function with that much chaos? I distract real easy, so I gotta keep myself on a really short leash here. Spear on the table. If I did 28s, I saw an idea that someone had in a video where they used the bristles of brooms for spears in 28s, and they flattened the edge and then used, I think, even a fingernail trimmer or something like that to give them a point. And that seems like a really good idea if you're doing something that it looks good on paper. It sounds good on paper. If you're doing a scale where you can use that because they're bendy, and I guess it would still hurt your eye if you did it, but I thought that was kind of a cool idea. If you did 28s, I wonder how much of the impact, 28 millimeter stuff, how much of it is because you went to that scale because wargamers are getting older and they're not able to see the small figures as well. And how much of it is it to grab onto the Warhammer bandwagon? The Warhammer bandwagon doesn't help me at all. And getting older, and my vision has, suffered, changed in the last 10 years. But I'd still have to take my contacts out or whatever to paint these figures. It's not like it's any better. None of those two things apply to me doing 28s. I just don't want to. I don't want to spend 3 times as long painting the figure, or having 3 times a third as many figures painted. Neither one of those two. But I wonder how much of it is due to that. Which is the more powerful of the two reasons? Now, I got a friend of mine who says he can't paint 15s anymore because his hand shakes too much. And I'm thinking, if you're painting bigger figures, your hands are shaking just as much. I don't want that handshake thing, please. I'd rather shit my pants or something. Just give me something else that happens to you at old age. I don't want the handshakes. I don't want either of the two. I'm just saying, if you're going to let me pick, I'm not going to get a lot of painting done if my hands start shaking. And when people that don't paint don't understand is that this is actually really easy on the eyes, because your eyes aren't constantly focusing in and out on stuff. You know, going to a store or a supermarket, that's rough on your eyes. In and out, close, far. What's that? Can't see. Let me get close. You know, constantly adjusting. This is a consistent lighting, consistent distance. My wrists are rested on the table. It's not taxing. Happens to me as well, but I clean it off and reorganize every other day, yeah. 28s used to be the standard, but more people moved to 15s because of the cost. Really? In New Zealand? See, I see a lot of things like 15 was, without a doubt, that was the scale to do it. And all of a sudden everybody's, I guess before my time, there was people that were doing 25s. And then 15s. And now there's a lot of stuff that's moved to 28s. I'm just not going to touch 28s. You have neuropathy in one hand makes painting difficult. I don't want anything that makes painting difficult. Period. I do not want it. I know you didn't ask for that either, but that's going to really cramp the... I got a lot of things that I want to do. And that's just going to run a whole lot of interference. One thing I've changed as older is anytime I'm going to travel to a convention, I got to travel with a pillow. Because the last convention we went to a couple of weeks ago, absolutely, I felt miserable for a good 75% of it because something had gotten pinched in my neck. And I don't know that I really have neck problems, but... So I'm going to go to Historicon with a pillow. As I tested it last weekend I went out of town, and I said, nope, I'm bringing my pillow with me, and 0 issues. So now I'm going to be some old man with a pillow. I'm telling you, I can't deal with a neck ache / headache. I mean, it was almost like I'd rather be at work than be at a convention with some kind of, with either a neck ache or a headache. Your eyes are shot for up close, so now I have glasses and a headlamp for the 15s. Mitch gave me one of these the other day. He had it laying around. He's like, if I could use it. This is actually pretty handy, this little zoom in. I want to say this is like a 10 by. The problem is it's so damn small that to have that specifically on the spot, I don't know, is it useful without glasses? Let's see. Oh yeah, I could see all kinds of shit. The problem is I got to be so close to it that I wouldn't be able to paint. I can't get the finger in here with a paintbrush. Oh well. I may bring it back to him. I didn't think it was likely I was going to be able to use it. I'd like the whole vision to be zoomed in like that. Store more 15s efficiently and 25s, 20s. Yeah. Yep. If Litco stands are that way. Litco stands are well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I was going to say 15s cost what 28s cost, and 28s cost what 15s cost, and still do 15s. And Litco stands are that way. The 3mm are cheaper than the 3mm thick stands are cheaper than the 1.5s. And now I just saw they have 0.8mm stands. I just happened to be surfing on their site the other day, and I'm like, that's a thin ass stand. To be less than a millimeter thin, I mean that's some pretty amazing technology. To be able to have a stand that thin made of plywood and not bend all to hell. I'm sticking with the 3s. It's what I have. Is a greater chance of being able to grip the side of the stand when you're moving it instead of the actual figures, thereby reducing the chance that I'm damaging my figures or bending them. Just in regular use. I don't know that I made any difference at all, but I painted his bloody eyes. All right, we're giving this guy a green shield. Is that what we decided? All right, let's go grab a... It's not going to look green though. Russian green. Oh, I hear a mixing ball. This must have been one of the watery greens. We're reaching transom window 30. You can see the light coming through here, which is really disorienting. How long have we been on here? Almost 3 hours. Wow. So now we got some more people on here. I'll ask the same question again. Is there ever an army you decided to paint because they just look not great, and then you just figured, well, maybe I'll make them look interesting? One army I got my sights set on is the Franks. The Franks have those stupid striped shirts, and I figured, man, I got to be able to make them look pretty cool. You know, they don't. A lot of their infantry doesn't have helmets. They look kind of stupid looking. So I'm looking forward to doing them and giving them their you know, I'm not gonna paint them in a unrealistic fashion, but just be able to make them look interesting. don't know if I'm going to put a center boss on this thing or not. Told you, green's not going to be green. It's just kind of subtle earth shades. Not able to sit down with Tony. About time for me to sign off. Did Byzantines use the Kiro on their shields for that time period? Nah, it's pretty much a Constantine thing as far as I can tell. The two historical fiction books that I've started reading, one of them I've stopped and picked up the other one. Within 30 minutes of reading it, there's already something that already bugs me about one of them. The first one was this one that describes Alexander in a battle, and it talks about him being on a white horse. And I'm like, Alexander's horse wasn't white, it was black, and it had a white star in his forehead. Bucephalus wasn't white. So like, right off the bat, I'm like, all right, should I trust anything that comes out of your mouth? It's printed. And the Byzantine one that I'm reading now is the main character is a commander of like 50 cavalry guys, and who's a cataphracti, and he talks about, you know, the Kiro that's on their that's on all of the Roman of all of the Byzantine shields, and I'm like, they didn't have that then. So I'm like, oh man, I see something like that, and it just dissuades me from reading anymore. You know, if you miss something that's just so basic. How believable could you make? How believable can you be? Maybe a little bit brighter. Lighten this up a tiny little bit more. All right. Yeah, see, right now I'm getting this light on the side of my face, and it's really distracting. So I might have to take like a 20-minute break or something like that. Get this from, like, I can't even see. Let's see, maybe over here. And I believe this is the color of his uniform. If it's, no, it's not. This will work fine for trim color. Just on his shirt jacket, I'm not really sure what the hell this thing is. Overcoat. Belisarius rode the white-faced bay. Yep. But Alexander's horse was black. He may have had more than one horse. But Bucephalus was black. With a white star on its forehead. All right. I think we need to do a buff colored hat here. get some gray. I don't think I have any of this alive anymore. Been a while since I used it. And we'll do this as the color of the lining of the cap. And when this guy's done, it'll leave 2 more spearmen. Give this guy a black beard. Mistakes in information kills a story for you. It makes you wonder how much the writer did the research. That's right, when it's something obvious. The spearments, the scutatos. Okay, Steve, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, these guys are not scutatos, but the early guys, yes, they are. Because they use the scutum as the shield, and old Belisarius. Did it stop? What stopped? Stop, or I'll say stop again. I'm not sure what stopped. Give this guy some black shoes. Stand out a little bit more. Armenian spearmen. Okay. Figure number 6. So we're going to take a little bit of a break, get this light to chill the heck out, and we'll be back in a few. So, as always, thanks for stopping by, folks, and catch you guys soon. The video paused